Are you somebody who charges ahead without considering the consequences? Or do you overthink things to the point that you never take action? These are just some of the situations to consider when the King of Wands shows up in a reading. Hi everybody, I'm Sue Ellen Clayton. Welcome to my channel where we are learning the tarot deck one card at a time. Today's card is the Knight of Wands. Most people find the court cards to be the most challenging part of the tarot deck, and I will do my best to demystify it here. I will be using the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. You'll find a link to the deck below, as well as to the many books that I used for my research. So let's get started. If you consider the knight to be a part of the royal court, he is likely the teenager who is ready to go to college. He fits in between the impulsive pages and the mature, stable king and queen. Before we talk about this knight specifically, I want to discuss knights in general. This information is from worldhistory.org, and I have linked to it below. The knight's purpose was to win victory on a battlefield. Basically, they were the frontline army and rode in close formation. If their lance was broken, they would wield their swords and dismount if their horse was injured. The process of becoming a knight began with being a page, who were the youngest members of the royal court. Pages started training around the age of 7 by serving a local knight or members of the royal family. Their jobs included running messages, serving, cleaning clothing and weapons, and learning the basics of combat. The next step was to become a squire, which is a knight in training, and this started about the age of 14. Their jobs included learning weaponry and horsemanship, as well as taking care of a full knight. Squires would clean a knight's weapon, polish his armor, look after his horses, and help him dress for battle. They also learned skills such as hunting and falconry, and they learned about music, dance, how to speak in Latin and French, and how to have good manners. Another job of the squire was to look after the pages. As the squire got older, he learned about combat and would undergo extensive training to increase their strength and skills. Knighthood generally occurred between the ages of 18 and 21 in an elaborate ceremony. I'm not sure if this is a good comparison, but I think of the knights as being the fraternity brothers of the court. They were well educated and well off, but their testosterone levels would overpower their brains sometimes. My son was in a fraternity when he was in college, and I don't think I slept well for those entire 4 years. As you can see on the screen, knights are all on horseback. They have lots of energy and are always going places, generally considered to be a quest. They are strong, smart, and often a bit reckless. They are more mature than pages, but still have a lot of growing up to do, so they are finding their way in the world. Like teenagers, their moods can change rapidly, but they continue to move forward. One of the reasons that court cards are challenging is that they can represent 3 things. The first is a person. As I mentioned, a knight is traditionally considered to be a male in his late teens through 20s. Depending on your age, a knight could represent a romantic partner, your child or sibling, a neighbor, or someone you work with. The second thing a knight can represent is a part of yourself that is adventurous and maybe not completely in control of your emotions. And the third and final thing a court card can represent is a situation where you are moving forward in your life or you need to move forward. So a knight might be a kick in the pants that it's time to stop thinking about going back to school and actually do it. So how do you know whether this knight represents a real person, a part of yourself, or a new approach to life? First of all, go by the question. If it isn't clear, look at the surrounding cards and its position in a spread. Here's 2 other things to keep in mind when we discuss the court cards. First of all, don't give much credence to the ages, gender, or physical characteristics. For instance, a knight is traditionally considered to be a male in his late teens or 20s. Does that mean it doesn't represent your lover who is 35 years old and female? Or your adventurous grandparent who went skydiving for their 75th birthday? No, it does not. Secondly, and more important, look at the energy from this card. Your level of maturity is not based on your age, and it can vary in different areas of your life. We all know super mature people in their teens and very immature people in their 80s. You can also be mature in one area of your life, say your finances, and totally reckless in another area like your health. One of the easiest ways to understand the personality of the court cards is to understand the chart on the screen. Each member of the court card's personality is related to 2 elements. Here's a quick reminder of what each element means. Pentacles are connected to the element of earth. It's all about things in the material world, such as our bodies, homes, nature, or how we earn our living. These people are very stable. They work hard and enjoy traditions. Wands is connected to the element of fire. These people tend to be feisty, confident, enthusiastic, adventurous, extroverted, passionate, flashy, and high energy. These people make good athletes and good salespeople. Cups are connected to the element of water. This card is all about emotions. Cups people are gentle, loving, sensitive, nurturing, and feel things deeply. These people make good healers and social workers. Swords is connected to the element of air. Swords is all about communicating and expressing ourselves. This includes our thoughts about ourselves as well as our thoughts about the world around us. This encompasses intelligence, knowledge, truth, mental clarity, and our sense of right and wrong. These people make good lawyers and writers. Each of the court cards is made up of 2 elements. The first element is related to their rank. On the column down the left, you can see that all pages are related to earth. All knights are related to fire, all queens are related to water, and all kings are related to air. Each member of the court card also has a suit, and along the top of the chart you can see the 4 suits. Pentacles are related to earth, wands are related to fire, cups are related to water, and swords are related to air. As you can see on the chart, the Knight of Wands has a double dose of fire energy. The rank of all knights connects to fire, which makes sense because they are the most active of the court cards. He is also connected to the suit of wands, which is the element of fire. So he doesn't have any other elements to slow his temper and fiery nature. This is a knight who is fiery in every aspect of his personality. In the Knight of Wands, we see a young male with red hair. He is wearing blue and white armor and red gloves for protection. There are feathers that look like flames on his helmet and sleeves. He is wearing a yellow tunic with a salamander motif. He's riding on a red horse. His left hand holds tightly onto green reins as the horse rears upward. There are 3 sets of leaves on the reins with 8 small dots between the leaves. His right hand holds a wand with 5 buds. He is in the desert. There are 3 pyramids on the left side of the card. The sky is blue. When the Knight of Wands appears in a reading, it can represent someone who has incredible energy, confidence, and passion, but doesn't always stop to think about the consequences of what they are doing. It can represent a part of yourself that is confident or makes impulsive, spur-of-the-moment decisions. And it can symbolize that it's time for you to get fired up about something in your life and take action. Let's talk about the symbolism of the Knight of Wands. We see a young male with red hair. That's not a surprise choice, as redheads are considered to be hot-headed and dramatic. Except for his armor, everything about this card is the color of fire and represents passion, drive, and a fiery personality. It's helpful to think about how the Knight of Wands embodies the qualities of fire. First of all, if you've ever sat around a campfire, you know that fires are mesmerizing. You can't help looking at them, and it is the same way with the Knight of Wands. He is charismatic and happy to be the center of attention. Secondly, fires are fast, indiscriminate, and out of control until they burn out or are stopped. At the end of February 2024, there was a massive wildfire in the United States across the Texas Panhandle and into Oklahoma that burned more than 1.3 million acres of land in a couple of days, killed a fire chief, and destroyed more than 500 structures. Fires move fast, and they don't stop to think about what they're doing or collateral damage, just like the Knight of Wands. He is wearing blue and white armor and gloves for protection. These are the same colors we see in the dress of the High Priestess, which is Major Arcana number 2. Just as in the High Priestess, the white is about purity and the blue represents intuition. Some authors describe him as bulletproof and see the armor as representing his extreme self-confidence. The only part of him that you can see, or is therefore vulnerable, is his face. There are feathers that look like flames on his helmet and sleeves. They make it look like he is literally on fire. This shows his fiery, passionate personality. He's wearing a yellow tunic with a salamander motif, just like we saw in the Page of Wands. As we discussed in the Page of Wands, salamanders were falsely believed to be fireproof and represented good luck and protection. When a salamander's tail is in its mouth, it creates a circle of energy. The fact that their tails are not in their mouths means that the knight is not yet mature. However, the tail is closer than in the page, so we are making progress. And spoiler alert, we don't see the completed circle until we reach the King of Wands. He's riding on a red horse with green reins. This is a sorrel horse, which refers to a horse that is red. These are pretty rare, and you can see a photo on the screen. The red horse further emphasizes his fiery nature. The green reins, however, are about the only thing in the card that isn't a fire color. This is a more grounded color and shows that the knight does have some control. Once again, Pam Richards, in her book Understanding Tarot, has pointed out a few things that I missed. First of all, she notes that the 3 sets of leaves that decorate the reins are a sign that he will try to control his creativity the best he can. But because there are 9 leaves in total, he will feel like he is at the finish line, even though he's just begun. The other thing she points out is the 8 small dots between the leaves, which are a sign of his confidence and belief that he is up for the challenge. On both hands are red gloves. His left hand holds tightly onto the reins. He is forcing the horse to rear upward and to move quickly. His right hand holds a wand with 5 buds that symbolize new ideas and growth. It also makes me think of the 5 of Wands, which is a card of conflict and destabilization. So it appears that his quest is some kind of battle. He is in desert terrain. As we discussed with the Page of Wands, deserts are hot. There are 3 pyramids on the left side of the card that look to be the same pyramids from the Page of Wands. It's no surprise that triangles are the symbol for fire, and this is reflected in the pyramids. 3 is a number of growth and creativity. The sky is blue. This demonstrates positivity and clarity. This knight knows exactly where he is going. When the Knight of Wands appears in an upright position, it can represent someone who is spontaneous, charismatic, energetic, confident, willful, bold, and courageous. These people love to travel, they love adventures, and they love new experiences. They always want more. If they're a mountain climber, they aim to climb higher and higher peaks. They are the kind of person who pushes forwards, sometimes without thinking things through, but they get things done. The Knight of Wands dislikes routines and predictability. They would be miserable in a 9-to-5 job in something like law or accounting, where they had to follow a set of rules. They are impatient and want things to happen quickly. It can represent someone who is hot-headed. They get restless when nothing is going on. They can start a fight just for the sport of it. It is a card about taking action without being sure of the results. The Knight of Wands is somebody who goes for it with gusto, but probably didn't do all of the work necessary to make certain that the outcome was what he needed. I picture him flying off into battle, but not stopping to read directions, so he might end up fighting a different war than he was supposed to. It can mean that it's time to stop overthinking or being fearful and take action so that you can move forward on your ideas, projects, or goals. It can mean that it's time for you to be more spontaneous. It can indicate that it's time to stop hiding in the background and be seen. You need to find some self-confidence. Take a stand and make your opinions known. Stop wearing black to the office and start wearing red, orange, or yellow so that you stand out. It indicates that you will be moving forward, especially after delays or feeling stuck. This could signify that it's time to take action, start a creative project on your own, or encourage other people to move forward. Finally, the Knight of Wands can symbolize someone who does a lot of traveling, an adventure, or moving to a new job or home. Here's an example of the upright Knight of Wands. It is about a woman with an amazing spirit of adventure, and it is about a reporter named Nellie Bly. This information is from Wikipedia, and I've linked to the article in the description. Nellie Bly was the pen name for Elizabeth Jane Cochrane. She was born in 1864 in Pennsylvania. Her father had 15 children with 2 wives, and Elizabeth was his 13th daughter. You can see a picture of her on the screen at age 21. In 1885, she read a column in the Pittsburgh Dispatch, which stated that a girl's purpose was to birth children and keep house. Elizabeth wrote a response under the name Lonely Orphan Girl. The editor was so impressed that he asked her to identify herself, and she started writing newspaper articles about such things as why women don't need to marry, and also how divorce impacted women, which is pretty shocking back in the 1860s. Eventually, she assumed the pen name Nellie Bly. At age 21, she traveled to Mexico as a foreign correspondent. Unfortunately, she had to flee the country after she protested the imprisonment of a local journalist who criticized the Mexican government. She moved on to a job in New York City, where she took an undercover assignment where she pretended to be insane so that she could investigate reports of brutality and neglect at the woman's lunatic asylum, which is located on what is now Roosevelt Island. To get there, she checked into a boarding house where she stayed up all night to give herself the wide-eyed look of a disturbed woman, and then began making accusations that the other boarders were insane. She spent 10 days in the asylum and experienced the terrible conditions firsthand. After 10 days, her newspaper asked for her to be released, and she published a report and later a book called 10 Days in a Madhouse. In 1888, at the age of 24, she decided to make a trip around the world where she attempted to turn the fictional Around the World in 80 Days book into fact for the first time. Just over 72 days after her departure, she had gone around the globe, traveling alone for almost the entire journey, and she set a new world record. A few years later, she was able to interview the allegedly insane serial killer Lizzie Halliday, who was responsible for the deaths of 4 people in upstate New York during the 1890s and became the first woman sentenced to death in the electric chair. I've attached a link to an article in the description box if you'd like to know more about this sordid story. When Elizabeth was 31, she married a millionaire manufacturer named Robert Seaman, who was 73. She left journalism due to his failing health and became the head of the Ironclad Manufacturing Company, which made steel containers such as milk cans and boilers. She became an inventor, and then the company went bankrupt because she didn't understand the finances. She went back to reporting and covered the women's suffrage movement and also stories about World War I. Bly was the first woman and one of the first foreigners to visit the war zone between Serbia and Austria, where she was arrested because she was mistaken for a British spy. She died of pneumonia in 1922 at the age of 57. She is buried at Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, which I go by every time I take the Long Island Railroad into New York City. I have to admire her spirit of adventure on so many levels. First of all, she was a pioneer female reporter and also pioneered what was called the stunt style of journalism. I can't imagine the kind of courage it would take to pretend to be insane to get a story. But that's what Page of Wands people do. They focus on action and not necessarily thinking through the ramifications. When the Page of Wands appears in a reverse position, it can refer to someone who is reckless, doesn't respect danger, and may put others in peril with their decisions. It can signify someone who is rude, intolerant, and a know-it-all. It can be someone who is unpredictable. It can signify someone who can be aggressive, cruel, and intolerant. He can get angry easily and use his temper to control people. It can represent someone who is filled with self-doubt, or someone who is too cocky or status-oriented. It can signify someone who feels unmotivated, unexcited, or maybe even burnt out. Reaching your goals seems impossible. It could represent someone who is either constantly moving or completely lazy. And finally, the Page of Wands can represent a delay or cancellation, generally caused because you were careless or rushed into things too quickly. Here's an example of the reverse Knight of Wands from my life, and it's about goals feeling impossible. I would really like to do some international traveling, but it feels impossible. First of all, my husband and I don't have a lot of overlap in our interests, which makes it difficult. I'm an early bird and I love learning about people, culture, and history. My ideal vacation is to take some kind of tour, visit a bunch of historical sites, and soak up all the information that I can about a destination. I have a lot of anxieties, so I am not someone who is comfortable finding my way around unknown places, especially if I don't speak the language, which is the reason I love tours. My husband is a night owl and he has zero interest in anything not related to science or science fiction. His ideal vacation is sleeping until noon and spending the rest of the day on a beach drinking rum punch. Yes, we can take separate vacations, and I will probably do that, but right now I don't like the idea, and I'm hoping he'll wake up one day with the desire to do it my way. To further complicate the situation, I am extremely allergic to shellfish. At this point, I can't even go into restaurants that serve shellfish, as inhaling it or any kind of cross-contamination could be fatal. I also have celiac disease, so I can't eat anything that contains wheat, barley, or rye. My dietary issues make things complicated and are a big consideration. It's hard to enjoy cruising where food is prepared in a common kitchen, and my neighbors are feasting on lobster while I have to stab myself with an EpiPen so I don't die. I'm sure there are solutions available, but right now I feel really stuck. I'd love to take some action and move forward on traveling. And if anybody has suggestions, please add them in the comments. Here are some questions to help you connect with the Knight of Wands. Number 1, is there a new project you'd like to start or a skill you'd like to learn? What action can you take today to make this happen? Number 2, do you charge ahead without considering the consequences? Or do you do the opposite, overthink things and never make any progress? How can you create a more balanced approach in your life? Number 3, are you someone who lacks confidence or is overconfident? What can you do to change this? Number 4, is there somewhere that you would like to travel? How could you make this happen? And finally, number 5, are there areas of your life where you're heading towards burnout? I hope this video has helped you connect with the Knight of Wands. And please join me for the next video, which is the Queen of Wands.